There's no one, as I mentioned, who is more powerful a visionary, thought leader, and advocate than Randy Cohen. And so it's a pleasure and an honor for me, Randy, to have you with us today. Thank you.
All right. Take my turn bending this thing around. Thank you so much. Wow, what a kind introduction. That is a guy who I have great admiration for. And so thank you for the kind words, John. Sorry. And let's try this. No, let's not. Okay. Oh, wait. Maybe I get it. So it's great to be here in San Diego. It's great to be back in San Diego. And a San Diego State alumni. That's me right here. So good to be back. Right. Go Aztecs. Great to be back here in San Diego. Love that there's the, the North County and Down County. I don't know what they call it either. So it's a fabulous expansion. And so I lived here for, say, 10 years. And boy, what a difference this beautiful arts center we're in and how that has just spawned of incredible development in this area. And, that right there, just walk around. I remember, this area before the arts center became part of this, this area. And very different kind of place. People still wonder, why did you leave this and go to Washington, D.C.? Still trying to answer that question myself after 27 years. It's good to be out of town, a place where nobody's encumbered by the facts these days, in Washington, D.C. But I've got a good story to tell, and we're going to change the conversation today about the arts from one of charity and subsidy to one of industry. An industry, the arts, businesses that support jobs, generate government revenue, drive tourism. You know what? This isn't the way we intuitively came up thinking about the arts, but now there's just wonderful research, and some of it, I may have gotten a little too much credit there, but thank you, John. There's a lot of great people, brilliant people out there doing work, using the research and the data to help create this narrative about the arts as cultural benefits and economic and job benefits. And I'm going to start talking today about arts and economic prosperity, the National Economic Impact Study of nonprofit arts and cultural organizations and their audiences. And then we're going to do a panel, and then I'll come back up and I'll expand the lens a bit to get into some of this creative economy and how the arts are such a large share of our nation's economy. The Secretary of Commerce made her economists at the Bureau of Economic Analysis go back and do it again because they just couldn't believe internally at Commerce how big this industry was. A little sneak peek. It came back even bigger. So incredible stories there. But let's never forget the fundamental benefits of the arts, the reason we support the arts, we love the arts. They create the communities that we want to live in and work in. They bring us joy and inspiration, and they have for a long time. And I give you as Exhibit A there, this hand-carved flute, which was found in a cave in Germany by some anthropologists a couple of years ago. And these folks were looking, well, let's find some evidence of what life was like back in the Stone Age days, How did they celebrate life after the great saber-toothed tiger hunt or, whatever they did? They were hoping maybe they'd find a bowl or a spoon, or what if we hit the jackpot and found a cave painting or something? Well, they happened to across this flute, hand-carved out of animal bone, 35,000 years old. And, it's a beautiful piece of work all on its own. Eventually someone got the, guts like, well, should we blow some air through it? Yeah, good idea. You do it. No, I'm not. Anyway, somebody did. It's like it sounded good. And, but what was interesting in the paper, and it was published in the journal Science. So this is one of his major scientific finding. These anthropologists were trying to figure out, now, what was the purpose of this flute? They thought, well, maybe it was to help promote territorial expansion. Yeah, maybe. Or a way to celebrate the hunt. Okay. Or maybe related to the fertility ritual. I kept thinking, maybe they liked the way it sounded. Yeah. That never showed up. But, you know, the idea that arts, you know, are providing these cultural and pragmatic benefits to our community is not new. Now, fast forward 35,000 years to the 1700s, where we find the shame flute, and this is just too good not to share. The shame flute, which I found actually, you can find this at the Museum of Crime and Punishment in Washington, D.C. There really is a museum by that name, and although it feels like the entire city these days is an environment of crime and punishment. But all right, we're recording this, right? So Randy's last day on the job took place in Escondido, California. So, so anyway, so this little ditty was made out of cast iron, and you can see the round part was clasped around a person's neck, and the fingers were shackled to this long iron tube. The purpose of the shame flute was to punish bad musicians. Yeah, that's right. You got a gig at the Prince's Palace and you stink up the joint? Well, they'd march you around town for a couple of days wearing the shame flute so everybody could laugh at the bad musician. Hey, sounds a little barbaric, but you know, they cared about their music, right? So anyway, arts, culture, core to our communities for a long time. Now, I want to stipulate all those benefits and again move on to this idea of arts as an economic benefit to the community. And like, what? How's that work? Arts and the economy? That's not why we got into this. That's not why we all love the arts. Well, maybe it's and why we love the arts. So a couple weeks ago, I actually got to go to an arts event. Think with Americans for the Arts on my business card. You must be going to the arts all the time. Lucky. Yeah, I have as much trouble getting out the door as the next guy. But it was date night with my wife. And, okay, so a little bit about myself real quick since I've been in San Diego area last. I am now an empty nester at home. And any of you who are on the cusp of this, glorious. Thank you. Great things are coming your way, trust me. So the one thing we're doing is that my wife and I'm now a ballroom dancer. We've taken a ballroom dance. So yeah, you know, it's fun. I got a ways to go here on that, but it's a really wonderful thing to be just practicing the arts once again. So what used to be a life of going to the theater, now we're seeking out dance performances and experiences. And so we found this wonderful tango performance that we had heard about, and so like, oh great, let's do that. So we went on home and went online and found the theater on the website and got the right performance and pulled out our credit card, punched in the numbers, and printed out the tickets. So we were good to go. Love the e-commerce. 2 Fridays come and got home from work. All right, we're going to do this. And I was informed we'd be dressing up this evening. And but there was a new necktie waiting for me. So the evening at the arts hadn't even begun, and there was already some retail spending involved. And so, on with the suit, on with the new tie. And on the way to the theater, we stopped and had dinner, right? Isn't that something we do a lot? Dinner and a show. And so we went to a lovely restaurant, spent $75, had a nice meal. From there, I was back in the car and drove off to the theater and parked next door at the parking garage, peeled off my $10. Wow, free parking, by the way. Mind-blowing. So love that. Talk about accessibility, parking, So got my little stub for my $10, and into the theater we went. It's one of those beautiful historic theaters that's been, beautifully renovated, and it's got, the frescoes on the wall, and we got our program and sat down in the audience and, looked at the gold inlay and the beautiful chandeliers and everything. Now, it's only 5 minutes to 8. The show hasn't even started yet. But think about all the industries that have already been touched related to just this one date night at the arts. Well, it started, 2 weeks before when we went online and found, the website and bought our tickets. Arts organizations, they employ web designers and computer programmers, and we did the e-commerce, and so you got the finance people and the banking folks involved now. And then we went, then the necktie. I don't know where she got that. I guess I should do that and fill out the story a little bit. But some business, it was a cool Frank Lloyd Wright tie. They made some money on the retail aspect of that experience. And then from there, it was to a restaurant. It's one of the farm to fork places, so everything's grown within 50 miles. And so some of those $75 are going to those growers and producers of the food. And, the waiter bring home some personal income, the owner of the restaurant some entrepreneurial income, and, we've been to restaurants, we know how they work, right? But, all of those industries that happen at a restaurant. back in the car, and it was off to the parking garage. Now, that happens to be a municipally owned parking garage, and every time someone's filling one of those 500 seats at the theater, it's $10 to the city, $10 to the city, $10 to the city. Man, the city is just raking on that theater. And I got to tell you, it's really changed, because before that theater was renovated, kind of like our center here. I mean, the area around it has really, really evolved. And that place probably closed up shop around 5 or 6 o'clock before, but now they're open well into the evening because it's this red hot area. And then we went into the theater, and every time you go to an arts event, even today, we're giving you paper, right? You're getting a program. Well, there's a writer in the community that's writing that. And there's a graphic designer that does the design. The local printers. You know what? If all the arts organizations just add up their printing budgets, trust me, you will have the attention of the local printers. And then there's another company that delivers, the brochures to the theater every week. And then we sat down in the theater itself and, read about it. And, those beautiful chandeliers? Well, I can tell you, I used to run a theater. Those are not interns changing those light bulbs. You need electricians to get up there. 8 o'clock, the curtain goes up and the performance begins. That's when people may begin to think about the arts as an industry. Wow, those dancers are amazing. They must be getting paid something, and probably not enough. And so that's what we're doing with this study. We're showing that arts organizations employ more than just the dancers and the musicians. They employ accountants and auditors and marketing people and electricians and plumbers and engineers. And then there's all the audience event-related spending that happens related to that. And so that's what we're capturing with this economic impact study. So arts and economic prosperity, it's the most comprehensive study of its kind ever conducted. And everybody catch San Diego there, that technical effect? That was all me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. San Diego, when we did the city, one of 341 study regions across the country. We're in all 50 states plus DC. We've studied communities as small as 1,500 people, as large as 4 million people. It doesn't matter if you're in a small rural community or in a large urban city. If the arts are happening there, there is a measurable economic impact. All right, so what did we do? Well, working with our partners and down at the commission at the city and our tourism partners and economic development folks, surveyed 293 organizations in the city, nonprofit arts and culture organizations, heard back from 137 of them. That's what we use. We take a very conservative approach to economic impact. We only use the data that we collect. So, lots that's not even included as part of this study. What did we find out? Total economic activity in 2015, $1.1 billion. That is billion with a B. An incredible number. Now, that figure, as you can see, is actually comprised of two specific numbers. Spending by the organizations, and that's just those 137 organizations, $553.6 million. That right there is a myth buster. Again, with the arts, they're wonderful community amenities, but they're also businesses that employ people locally, purchase goods and services from other businesses in the community, are members of the Chamber of Commerce, involved in the marketing and promotion of the region. Arts organizations are good business citizens. And, okay, no surprise, like any business, they have a measurable economic impact. Unlike most industries, however, they generate this event-related spending. And, that's just Randy's date night out with his wife going to the dance performance, right? Working with our tourism partners, and you'll hear more from them, we did 1,261 audience intercept surveys across a whole range of arts events, just right in San Diego. So phenomenal oversample, great partners, incredible work. We found the typical attendee to an arts event spends $45.66 per person per event, not including the cost of admission. 12.4 million attendees, you pack that number up, and that's how you get that $546.4 million of spending by arts audiences. We'll drill a little bit more into that, but that's a huge amount of economic activity. All right, what's the economic impact of that spending? Well, we work with a team of economists from Georgia Tech School of Economics who customize an input-output analysis model for all 341 communities. So we built an economic model specifically for San Diego. Let me just say, it's early in the morning, right? So I'm not going to go too deep, but imagine your worst calculus nightmare. That's what these things begin to look like. It takes 1 million calculations just to come up with the San Diego numbers. But we do that because an economic impact in San Diego is going to have $50 there. It's going to have a different economic impact than 50 in LA or 50 in Phoenix or somewhere else. So all our data very localized. So the first thing we look at, jobs. Ask any legislator, what are your 3 priorities? And you'll hear this likely. Well, jobs, jobs, and jobs. All right. Well, let's connect our cultural product to their priority. 35,914 jobs right there in San Diego. Even in a global economy, lies industry. Why? If we come here to the Arts Center to, see a performance and, it's one first violinist and 99 Macintosh computers or something like that, we're not going to be too happy about that, right? That's going to be cool for about 15 seconds. And then you're going to be like, all right, that was interesting. We need all the musicians on the stage. So the arts, not just food for the soul, but putting food on the table for over 35,000 households in San Diego. What's another thing we look at? Government revenue. Local and state government revenue, $116 million back to the city and to the state. And what this shows is that when we invest in the arts with our public dollars or our private sector dollars, those dollars aren't going down some black hole of goodness. They give back to the community as well in terms of jobs and government revenue. So cultural and economic benefits. An investment in the arts, it's a two-way street. I'll tell you, nationally, if you add up all federal, state, and local government funding for the arts, it's about $5 billion. Total government revenue at those 3 levels, $27.5 billion. Small investment, huge returns. That's the arts. All right, let's drill down just a little bit here real quick on this audience spending, because that's really one of the biggest value adds to be talked about. So remember, we did 1,261 audience interviews at a whole range of events, performances, festivals, weekends, museums. We had a broad distribution of events. The typical attendee spends $45.66 per person per event, not including the cost of admission. And you can see how those dollars break down. About half of that's on meals and snacks on the left. And, up at the upper right, there's souvenirs and gifts. That's my necktie coming in there. And ground transportation, there's my $10 parking. You might be looking at lodging. Wow, can you still get a room around here for $11? And would you want to if you could get it? No, you probably wouldn't. Now remember, just a percentage of people have a lodging cost. So that comes out in the averages. Nationally, I'll tell you, we did 212,000 audience intercept surveys. So here's some really interesting others. And so one of my favorite ones is there was a farmer in Wisconsin who paid somebody $60 to milk his cows so he could go to the theater that night. Isn't that great? You know what? People are doing what it takes to get to the arts. I love that story. So in addition to how much did you spend at that arts event, we also asked those folks for their zip code, because we wanted to find out, do they live in San Diego County? So we used the county measure. Are you local? Or are you non-local? Do you live outside the county? 30% of attendees came from outside the county. Whoops, I got a number for that. 30% came from outside the county. And if they spend differently, you bet they do. $78.80 per person per event, not including the cost of admission. And, more on lodging, more on transportation, that type of thing. But we didn't even stop there, because we're just that annoying. We also asked those folks another question, which was, well, why are you here? You here on business? You here visiting friends and family? We gave them some options. 23% said, we came specifically for this arts event. So now you can really see the pulling power of the arts and how that, and people bring their wallets. And we actually looked at the flip side of that question, and we asked everybody who does live in San Diego County, well, what if this arts event wasn't taking place? Would you have stayed home, done something else? 45% said, oh, we traveled to a different community to attend a similar kind of arts event. When people have that cultural itch, you know, they're going to scratch it. And they'll scratch it right here in your community, or they'll go somewhere else to find it. And one more finding as well. So here, I'll reduce the base here. So 12.4 million attendees, right? 30% from outside the county. 34% of those folks had an overnight lodging expense. They average $164 per person per event. You know, you get that head into bed, that's when the cash registers really start ringing. So a powerful story that when we invest in the arts, we're not investing in a frill or an extra. It's an industry that's drawing people to the community, and those people are spending money. A vibrant arts community is good for local businesses. All right, real quickly, one of the things we also found out about this, volunteerism. I love the Citizen Army. You know, just those 137 responding organizations, 12,377 volunteers, they gave 594,000 hours. Arts organizations everywhere you go, and I know that was a city thing and we're in North County. Arts organizations here rely heavily. I already met some of the great volunteers and board leadership just, you know, right here at the Arts Center. So that's part of what it takes to keep our cultural economy afloat. You can actually put a dollar value on that. The typical volunteer hour, $23.56 per hour. So you do the math, you know, just San Diego, that was a $13 million value. Not part of the $1.1 billion, but an important part of this story. Here's another important thing you need to know. We're Americans for the Arts, right? So, you know, we've been doing these economic impact studies, you know, in Washington, D.C. and across the country, you know, for over 20 years. But Washington, D.C., it's the land of national organizations. You know, there's so many national organizations in Washington, D.C. There's actually a national organization for the national organizations. I kid you not. But you can actually make this work for you. So when you go to AmericansForTheArts.org, our website, or the City Commission's website, you'll see the report, you know, and it has a nice design on the front. But when you flip to the back, you'll see the logos like this of our national partners. And so organizations like the U.S. Conference of Mayors, that's where all the mayors go to caucus a couple times a year. Or the National Association of Counties. You know, I was just in Columbus in June, in July, with our nation's county electeds talking about this study. They're a national partner, the League of Cities, or International City County Management Association. If you're a county manager and you belong to ICMA, every month you get a magazine. It's called Public Management. And, you know, here's all the big issues facing, you know, those folks. The October cover story, Arts and Economic Prosperity, in a 6-page article. So first of a 3-month series. How about on the business side? The Conference Board. That's the national organization for the Fortune 1000 companies in this country. They're a national partner because they too believe, all these organizations, that the arts are a fundamental component of a healthy community, and they buy into the methodology and they buy into the results. You can feel good about these data. So I'm just going to pause there, and because we'll be coming back up here in a couple of minutes, where we're going to expand the lens beyond just the nonprofit arts and culture industry to include the commercial sector, where I tell you, San Diego County is running ahead of the national averages, and even nationally, commerce data. And we're going to talk about the importance of creativity and innovation and all those eloquent words of John. More great work, research that backs that up. So, but the bottom line, in San Diego, arts, nonprofit arts, a $1.1 billion industry, supports over 35,000 jobs, generates $116 million in government revenue. The arts mean business. Thank you.